It was a rainy day in Sacramento, California. Dr. Kurt Schneider was taking his car out of the parking lot of the hospital where he worked. He was heading out on a long journey to Los Angeles, where he was called to be present for an emergency medical procedure. He was unable to book a flight on such a short notice and had no other choice but to drive there to make it on time to LA. It would take about 5 hours to get to his destination, and the faster he would get going, the better. Before long, Kurt drove out onto a highway and had been driving for some time. He passed by what seemed to be the last gas station before a long distance down the highway. Kurt looked at his fuel indicator. The tank was full, and he passed the gas station without any hesitation. The gas he had in his car would be enough to make it to LA. It was pouring rain outside, and Kurt sped up his car and drove fast along the empty highway road. Kurt had been driving in the rain for a distance, until suddenly his car jolted and took a stop on the highway. Kurt poked his head out of his car and looked around. The road was empty. He didn't understand what had just happened. He wondered if he had driven over something. Just then, Kurt glanced at the fuel indicator in his car. The gas tank was empty. Kurt was astonished. How could this be? It was full a while ago. Kurt distinctly remembered passing by the last gas station because his gas tank was completely full. How can a full tank run out of gas in just about 5 kilometers distance? Something was definitely not right. After sitting in his car for a while, Kurt decided to get out and start walking towards the gas station he had left behind. What other option did he have? Maybe he could get a towing service to get him his car from there. After walking about 1 kilometer in the pouring rain, Kurt noticed a light in the distance behind him. It was the headlights of a car. He raised both his hands and signaled for the car to stop. Just a distance away, the car halted, and the driver rolled down the window. Kurt hurried to the car and was surprised when he saw a young woman sitting in the driver's seat. He stared at her for a while. The young woman looked at him and said, "How may I help you, Grandpa?" Kurt was a little taken aback at the young woman's remark. Did he look that old? Kurt said, "My car went out of gas while I was driving down this road. It's strange, I thought it was full the last time I saw a gas station. There's a gas station about 4 kilometers down this road. Since you're heading that way anyways, could you please drop me off there? It would be very kind of you. I've been walking for 1 kilometer already." "Sure, I thought I saw your car on the road. Come on in, Grandpa, I'll give you a lift." Kurt walked around the car and took the front seat next to the young woman. After a few minutes of driving along the road, Kurt spoke up and said, "So where are you heading to?" "Oh, me? I was just going to spend the weekend with my boyfriend." Kurt nodded. "You know, when I saw you, I got really surprised." The young woman raised her brow and said, "Why?" Kurt said, "You actually look just like my wife." The young woman let out a laugh and jubilantly said, "Really? But Grandpa, where did you find a young girl like me to marry you?" Kurt said, "We got married when we were young, but she's no more. She died young due to sepsis." The young woman said, "She must have been your first wife. You must have married 3 more times by now." Kurt was shocked. He wondered, 3 more times? What does she think of me? Kurt looked out the window and sighed. "No, I didn't get married again." The young woman frowned and said, "You know what? I've heard old people say they don't really get my generation, but honestly, I'm the one who doesn't understand your generation. What's wrong with you people?" Kurt looked at the young woman. "Really? What makes you say that?" The young woman explained, "How do you stay without getting married? So you've been single for the last 100 years? Or have you been dating women a 10th of your age? That's not normal. I'm actually having second thoughts on picking you up now. Maybe you're a psycho." Kurt chuckled and said, "First of all, I was not born old, and it hasn't been 100 years. And I've truly been single in every sense, and I have not dated ever since. The young woman said, "That's crazy." The young woman and Kurt had passed some distance on the road when the young woman asked, "So how did you meet Grandma?" "I met my wife back when I was in school. Her name was Cassandra. We were high school sweethearts." Isn't that so predictable, your generation? Yes, and you youngsters all meet each other on the net, don't you? Do you know how difficult it is to impress someone on the net? You must have had no obstacles in your relationship. Obstacles? Now that's a long story. And one with two big obstacles. You know what they're called? I'll tell you. Cassandra's father and her elder brother. Those were two men that I couldn't get off my back. They were like two eagles keeping their keen eye on me, and I felt like a little dove trying to fly off with Cassandra. Like back when it was a week before the senior prom at our high school. Of course, Cassandra was eager to go with me, and she had been bugging me to ask permission from her father. I was nervous. I didn't want to risk a chance of disapproval. I was dropping Cassandra off home when her elder brother spotted us. "You little brat, you think you can sneak around with my sister like this?" He dragged me back home and started banging on his door. He was nearly 2 feet taller than me, and he looked like a goon. But I still could have put up a good fight with him, but I went along with it since he was Cassandra's brother. So the next thing you know, Cassandra's father stomps out the door with his rifle and points it at my face. "You think you can fool around with my daughter and get away with it?" "No, sir, it's not like that. Cassandra and I are in love." "Yes, father, put that away, you're overreacting." "I'm warning you, young man. If I see you anywhere close to my precious daughter again, I won't wait a second to pull this trigger on you." "Sir, that won't be necessary. It will not happen again. May I take your daughter with me to the prom?" Cassandra's father and brother bursted out laughing. The young woman chuckled and said, "That must have been embarrassing. Were you scared when he took out his rifle?" I think they got impressed by me that day. The next day, Cassandra surprised me by coming to my house for rewarding me. Every time, actually, whenever I felt low in my life. "Oh, so Grandma was a foxy lady." No, she wasn't foxy. She used to reward me with her baking skills. She used to bake her special thumbprint cookies and cakes. We got married when we were in college, and trust me, college was another bumpy ride. I had to fend off other guys that would hit on her. There was this one creep who wouldn't stop following her around. I ended up getting into a fight with him, and both of us got suspended for a week. I broke my arm in the process. But that guy didn't dare to put an eye on my girl after that day. So you went to fight for your girl and you broke your own arm. What a way to impress Grandma. The way I see it, that guy could have roamed around for the rest of his life, and Grandma wouldn't have cared. Cassandra took a lot of care of me for a whole month after that. She stayed with me and made my food and looked after the apartment. And that sort of continued until we finally got married. Cassandra took care of everything. I didn't have to worry about anything anymore. We bought our own house in Texas and moved in. Cassandra had been saving money over the years, and she surprised me with our first car. Things were happy until she fell sick. The disease was actually spreading in Texas. A lot of people suffer from sepsis in Texas every year. Cassandra was one of those unfortunate people. The young woman said, "So Grandma was the perfect girl." Kurt looked at the young woman and said, "Well, not really. Now that I think about it, she wasn't that perfect. Her cousin Jessica was much prettier than her. Cassandra actually had something with her right ear. It was a little crooked. She was going bald, her hair was falling off. Jessica had the most beautiful eyes, and Cassandra's eyes were just ordinary. But everyone has one flaw or another, right? It isn't really that big of a deal." I always tried to overlook Cassandra's flaws. I tried to keep things right between us. Her family was just over the top annoying, and those cookies I had to finish? Boy, that was a misery. Cassandra cooks, but her cooking is awful. Just then, the young woman let go of her steering. Her cheeks had turned hot red, and she looked like she was fuming steam out of her ears. She stretched her hands out and grabbed Kurt by the neck. "What did you say? I'm going to kill you!" Kurt couldn't help but laugh. "Your cookies and cakes were fine. They were delicious. You came back to take me? You had to prank me even now?" The young woman angrily said, "What else did you expect me to do? You died and didn't even realize it. You started roaming on this highway like a wandering ghost. If I didn't pick you up, you would have been walking down this road for ages, scaring people on this highway." Kurt smiled and said, "I hope all of this is followed by a reward." Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.